Hello and welcome to Revolutionize Your Relationship. I am your host, Eva Blake. And in this series, I'm talking to a variety of experts who are uniquely qualified to educate and empower you to master your mind and body intimacy, to unleash your passion, and to create everything that you desire in life and in love, because you are absolutely worth it. And I'm thrilled to introduce you today to Magda Kay. Magda is an international intimacy expert, a Tantra teacher, and a relationship coach. She combines ancient teachings of sacred sexuality, yoga, and energy work together with social psychology and human behavior. She is normalizing the conversation about intimacy and sexuality and translating tantric philosophy and practices into the modern world to meet modern needs. She's studied and taught all over the world to unlock the flow of sexual energy for more passion and aliveness in every person's life. So therefore, she is a perfect fit for us today. Hello and welcome, Magda Kay.
Hello, so happy to be here.
I am thrilled for this conversation with you. So I just want to jump right into the guts here. I know that you are a stand for love, connection, and intimacy as a way of life. And you even say intimacy is a basic human need that most of us are deprived of. So tell us, just from the most basic element, because I think a lot of us get tripped up on this, which is, what is intimacy?
For me, intimacy is the proximity. It's the closeness. So this can be closeness of physical bodies, and this is the intimacy that most of us know, because when you get close to someone, like you feel something, even on a bus, right? It's a stranger, but you feel, even if it bothers you, it's because they're in your space. So that there is this closeness that impacts you in some way. That's the intimacy that most of us know. Then there is intimacy on more like a subtle level, energy level. And some people may not be really aware of what it is or don't understand it, maybe don't even believe it. But again, we all feel this. And that type of intimacy is interesting because it can go beyond the physical proximity. So I can be intimate with you, even though we're physically really far away. You can connect intimately to someone through a meditation or energy practice. But to me, basically, intimacy is about closeness. And I'll add one thing is because people talk a lot about intimacy and sensuality. I think it's sad that when we say intimacy, we mean it as a synonym for sexuality. Because I guarantee you, and I bet everyone listening here has experienced sex without intimacy. It doesn't feel good. It's not the same. Intimacy can be a part of a sexual experience. And this is when those sexual experiences feel great. But intimacy does not have to be in any way sexual. And when we start changing the understanding of what it is, we understand that we can be intimate with many different people, even though we don't have to engage sexually with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. I know I've had so many conversations, especially with men around, are you intimate with your friends? And they're like, ew, intimate. What do you mean? No, I'm not. That's not what I'm not into that, And so really redefining exactly what you said, whether it's proximity or it's just closeness of revealing something like, are you telling the truth about your experience of being alive on the planet right now? Are you opening to let me see you, right? Into me you see. Are you revealing and letting that open? And one of the things that I hear from a lot of people is around a struggle around self-care and self-love, being in a passionate, compassionate relationship with themselves, which is absolutely intimacy with self. So I love for you to talk about the relationship between being conscious of our needs and desires and being intimate with self and then intimate with someone else in our life.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that this is something that's not even introduced to us. If I think of where I was 20 years ago before I embarked on this journey, when I looked at my parents and a lot of my friends, who still live in a big city, so they haven't been exposed to a different mindset and a different community. It's just, as a concept, it's what do you mean be intimate with myself? It's imagine we just started speaking Chinese, right? That's what it is for a lot of people. And this is, I think the switch is, everything I do towards others. So my ability to listen to someone, to ask them questions, to hold them when they go through something tough. Can I literally turn all of it towards myself. And this is when you can play a bit of schizophrenic and pretend like, you know, you have an imaginary friend and you're talking to yourself. But honestly, that's how it starts, you know, and you can do this, you know, to a mirror if that helps you, but like literally talk to yourself as you would to another person, because we know how to create that connection with another human being. So treat yourself, like split yourself into two different personalities and have these conversations, and eventually it will become integrated. And there are levels and depths of this process, you know, and I'm still learning. There's moments when I forget to go inside and connect with myself first. I'm super honest about this. Yeah. But you still get to change a lot, because most of us have no relationship to ourselves. Mm-hmm. We do not hear our own needs. We do not listen to the body. In fact, the Western society is designed to override internal messages, you know, like everything in terms of like, you know, even if you look at the educational system, like you're not really invited to think on your own. You're not invited to design the path how you want to study, because the system is very strict, very organized. The same with medical system. You feel pain, take a painkiller instead of talking to the pain and asking, hey, what is the message from you? What's happening here? If I am getting any messages, I'm stupid, I'm brainwashed, and all of the great great judgments that we receive. So I think it's a very foreign topic, and people may feel like this is crazy, but seriously, start by treating yourself like a different person. Like I said, get a bit schizophrenic and just talk to yourself, treat yourself like you would another human being, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are crying because something happened to you, instead of ignoring this, trying to suppress with food or going out, just stop and ask yourself, or like just talk to yourself, hey, I'm really sorry this is happening to you, and just sit and hold yourself. Mm-hmm. And it will feel weird at the beginning, but over time, this will be very natural.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. I love what you're saying about the simplicity, but also the, you know, it is so simple to talk to myself. Like when you say it, talk to yourself as if you're talking to your friend. I'm so sorry this is going on for you. Like, this is really rough. And yet, you know, I'm just reckoning with it right now that we don't in modern society don't have a lot of models for that. Right. And so we're really trained to be unconscious or to just bury it all. Right. And so I think the other thing that I see, you know, with my clients and with my friends even, is that when we start to do this intentional focusing in or being with self, that, you know, it actually opens the box of all of those repressed feelings that like start coming up. And people definitely say to me, like, I don't know if I can handle this. Right. I don't know if I can handle this. And I say, well, the only way out is through.
I agree. It is like opening a Pandora box. And I think, yeah, it's, you know, I've had these conversations, maybe more with my older friends or friends of my family, so like my parents' age, who were not doing these things. And they're always looking at me like, why do you do all of this? Why don't you just go with your life and be happy? And I sometimes ask myself the same questions, like, why do I care so much? Why do I always need to look at things and try to heal and everything? But it is a bit like that. It's like the moment it's like this, if you're ignorant of these sensations in your body and how this messaging works and how the energy works in the universe, as long as you're ignorant, you're kind of getting a pass. But once you understand, like once you know, you're not treated like, oh, you're just a child, you don't get it. No, now you know the rules, so you have to kind of follow through. It's like, I've noticed this even with my work. Mm-hmm. Like many years ago when I was doing business consultations, right? I was not aware of energetics. So I didn't have to, like, you know, I'm a foreigner, it's not my law. But once I decided, like I opted in, all rules changed in my life. And so I think it's right what you're saying. People are scared because it's like gonna change everything. And it's like a never ending thing because it's a lifestyle, you know, it's not, I do something once, it becomes a lifestyle. It's like a hygienic protocol, right? Like we brush our teeth every day and no one complains about it. it becomes another layer of simply taking care of yourself. And yeah, I do have moments and I'm just like, oh, why is there yet another thing coming up? Why don't I get a break? But deep inside, I couldn't live my life any other way.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Like the levels of satisfaction and fulfillment that you get on a deep soul level, it cannot be, compared to anything else, seriously.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love what you just said, this last part, this level of satisfaction, the level of fulfillment, and in turn, right, the level of connection, right? As I get increasingly connected to myself, then it actually creates space for me to be increasingly connected and intimate with somebody else, rather than skimming the surface or looking down always at my device. Wow, it's suddenly a lot easier now to be in really intentional, conscious relationship with another person.
Absolutely. This is, I think, this is one of the main things that changed for me. Like if I think of, some of the stories, even if I knew, okay, we have only 2 weeks, because then one of us is coming back home to a different continent. Even if it's 2 weeks, I am fully open. My heart is fully open to receive and love. So when you connect with a human being, you're just open. You're intimate. There's no way of like deciding, I'm going to stay close. Yeah. Now, of course, if it's a longer relationship and wounds come up, then, it's a bit of a different dynamic. But the starting point is, I like being in your space, so I'm going to open fully. Instead, when I'm like out, with people who have never been introduced to this, it's like, notice, like, I don't know if it's true for you, but for me and my friends from Tantric community, it's like, if you meet someone, like in the first 2 weeks, you go through so much, it feels like you've been dating for 2 months. And in 2 months, it feels like you've dated for 2 years. And if you've been together for 1 year, it feels like you already sent your kids to college. It's because it's a way different dynamic, because you're not holding back. And then I meet with my other friends and I hear stories like of people like dating for like 3 months. And it's still in the phase of a seed, like planting a seed. I'm like, what have you been doing for those 3 months? Like, and they're still not opening up. 3 months, 6 months, and they even haven't opened. They haven't been vulnerable with each other. It's a whole different way of relating.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up Tantra, because I know in the West, there's a lot of misconceptions about what does that even mean. Right. So I would love if you could just address that really briefly. But on the other side, really tell us what are the possibilities on the other side when we do incorporate tantric philosophies or tantric practices individually, solo on my own, but also as partnership with a lover, and then in community, right? Because there, as you said, there is something on the other side, right, that we're not taught in mainstream culture how to do relationships. So I'd love for you to show us what is on the other side, Magda.
Okay, so starting with what is Tantra and what it's not. Like, I'm not someone who is so picky about definitions. Like, Tantra is a spiritual path, okay? If we want to be like historical, it was created in parallel to yoga, because yoga was always very strict, very patriarchal, very, based on the caste system. And Tantra was about breaking all of this and allowing women into the practice, allowing people of lower caste, allowing meat, allowing sex, a very, like kind of going opposite to this, right? But it's at the core, it's a spiritual practice. Now, what we've done with Tantra these days is that what is mostly understood under Tantra, that the term of Tantra is conscious sexuality. Yeah. And you could argue what it is, Tantra or not, but I would say it's good just to understand that when you say Tantra these days, or often when you say like tantric massages and tantric retreats, just be mindful to check, is it about conscious sexuality or is it more spiritual? And you're going to find things everywhere in between, right? Like you can have Tantra without sex, like penetration or any sexual experiences can be a part of Tantra, and they do not have to. And then you can also have conscious sexuality that is not really tantric because it doesn't have the spiritual aspect. Again, I have nothing against people using this term for whatever they're doing. I think it's more about what is it that I want to experience and which of these offerings out there is going to meet me. But be mindful that Tantra can be just as much an orgy, that's what's called Tantra these days, as much as sitting for 2 hours, looking at the candle and repeating a mantra for 2 hours. That is also, like, that's the spiritual.
And both can take you to ecstasy.
And you can mix both. That's another thing. That's, But yeah, that's the ideal. But it's not to say that this is what you're going to encounter. So just being mindful of that. But yeah, it's what you just said, right? Both these paths can take you to these deeper states. And for me, this is like, if I think of what Tantra is to me, it's about opening my body so I can be more intimate with life. So I'll give you an example. I was in this retreat. I was attending the retreat, and it was a Tantric shamanic retreat. And there was the time of my life when I was doing the most practices, like yoga, meditations, energy work, a lot of things. I was very much committed. And I got to the place when I could practically read future for this retreat. Like, for example, in the morning, I was thinking, I don't know why, I feel like I want to have a bathing suit. And then I go into the class and they say, hey guys, so go to your rooms now, get a bathing suit because we're going to go to the waterfall. And I had so many of these instances. It's like, I was like, you know what? I feel like I want to spend one day in silence. And then boom, they give us a practice that today we're going to be in silence the whole day. I was so extremely aligned. Yeah. And so for me, Tantra is the state of being open when you get to be intimate with life, meaning you actually get to converse with life. Mm-hmm. Like, if you think of animals, they're all tantric. Like, notice with our amazing human brain, we still cannot predict when a volcano will erupt or when there's going to be an earthquake. And yet magically animals can. Because notice that before anything happens, you see animals moving away. They can feel that because they're intimately connected to nature. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's about this intimate connection to life. And when we know what's going to happen next. We know what to do next. There's no worries. And it's a very special state to be in. And again, I'm not in the state all the time, especially being now back in Western Europe. It's not always easy, but that's what's possible and possible for everyone.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love the story that you're telling about being aligned and like that there's something that you're getting some kind of information. It's emerging from you, right? You're not receiving a text message. It's coming from feeling. It's coming from intuition. It's coming from being open. So, I'd love for you to speak about what are some practices for being open, for achieving that kind of state, especially with self, right? Because I think that a lot of people are like, I want to have a fantastic relationship, so I'm going to focus on them. And it's a really outward focus, right? And yet there's a lot that we get to do with ourselves. And I'll say I'm on board with you. There are moments where I'm all in, totally aligned, and other moments where I'm like, wow, I'm glad I'm not driving a car right now because I would have driven it off the road. Right? So what are some practices that you use that are about being grounded, being connected to self, and opening to, as you said, the magic of being aligned with nature?
So since you mentioned driving a car, I'm going to tell you something that happened just maybe 2 days ago. So for me, I know that one of the ways when something is coming up and I don't want to feel that, one of the things that happens with me, I get hungry and I start eating way more. And this may be like kind of almost like craving sugars and wanting to binge, but this may literally be just being more hungry and eating good food, but suddenly eating more. So there's something around food. I'm like, okay, I know I'm running away from something. I already recognize my pattern of suppressing uncomfortable feelings. So a few days ago, I'm driving a car and I feel that sensations in my body. And I'm like, okay, there's something that I don't want to feel. And I'm trying to understand what is it, and I'm not getting anything. So often introspection will give us answers, right? But I'm not getting anything. So I was like, well, let's go for it. So I'm driving a car. Of course, my windows are closed. And I start just making the weirdest sounds ever. It's something like, like just weird sounds. Because all I knew is like, there's something I'm not feeling. Let me feel it through my body. Like you said, the only way is through the things, right? And so you don't have to understand what it is that you're feeling. It's just about moving that energy through your body. And you can move it with the sound, you can move it with the breath, and you can move it with the movement, right? So if I was at home, I would shake my body. I would shake my body. Not the best thing to do when you're driving, right? You can take different breaths, and you can be like, right? Like these intense breaths. Or again, just sounds like you can, because it's hardly singing. It's like, imagine being an animal that's being slaughtered. Basically, these were the sounds, but that's the point. They're very deep sounds from your root, right? Not like, it's not singing. It's like allowing the sadness, the sorrow, the anger to move through my body. And so when you do that, when you embody the feelings and you let the energy move, because that's how you move energy, right? You don't have to understand exactly what it is that you're feeling. And this is how we open, right? Okay, there's something going on in my body. I move, let it move through me. Because what most of us do when we feel something, we contract or we suppress it. Like I said, me with food, with Netflix, with sex, with going out, with alcohol, whatever it is, we all have our strategies that have worked for us for many, many years. But what you're doing, basically, it's like something is coming up. Okay, let's close around it. Mm-hmm. So there's no flow of communication. It's like, if I'm thinking, imagine I'm getting a phone call and I'm saying, no, like, off, yeah. Right? Then I'm not going to know what is the message that someone is trying to pass to me. So it's the same. If I keep, rejecting the call from my body, I'm not getting the message. Yeah. This is answering the phone when we open and we feel. And the main thing is the actual opening of your body. Right? Instead of like being, you're like, that state, expansion. Then it goes through whatever you need to get from it, you get, whatever is like the byproduct, the waste is going to come out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think what I love most about your descriptions is that they're raw, they're messy, they're wild. It really is about connecting to our animal body, the place where we're not in a logical storytelling kind of therapeutic mindset where we're trying to figure things out. It really is about just pull the cover back and see what emerges outside of you and be able to move and express in some way that's not thought out. It's not planned. It's not a performance, right? I think that's one of the most powerful ways that we get in there and also let go so that we can be available for this magic of connection with self and connection with others, so that we're not trying to fight the constriction, the clamping down and around something, right? If we let it go, right? We're actually much more flexible as human beings. I love that.
And, and there's absolutely an aspect of having space to do it. I could scream when I was in the car, but if I was parked in the parking space, I probably wouldn't, because you can usually hear things that happen inside of the car. Most of us do not have the space where we get to do this. So take advantage, go to the woods or scream into the pillow, do what you need, adjust that surrounding, because it's also so easy to use our surrounding as an excuse why I'm not going to do that.
My favorite is going into the closet, regardless of how big or small it is. Okay. Surrounded by my clothes, shut the door and just let it out, especially if there are other people, around in the same building. And on those lucky days when there's no one else around and I have that auditory space, just like you're saying, then just go for it. Now, I want to take just a side turn here, which is to be curious about, in the space of sex, sexuality, intimacy, and relationships, in our world, there is a lot of anxiety. There is shame. There's a taboo. There is, oh my gosh, are you really going to say X, Y, and Z? And I know that this has come up for you. And I would love for you to just talk, briefly about what happened and what's the effect for you, because you're not the only one. You're not the only practitioner or teacher, coach, therapist who has experienced exactly what you have. And I'd love for you to just share that with our audience so that, we all get an understanding of like, what is happening globally in our world around these conversations outside of just what I personally am experiencing in my life.
Thank you for bringing this up. This is actually really big. So, I mean, the first level is really like your friends. Like, I don't think I've lost any friends, but it's also because I moved to tantric communities. But I did have a situation some time ago. I was visiting my friend's family and she was like, by the way, Magda, I told them that you teach yoga, okay? And I'm just like, can you imagine if you had any other job and like you were not allowed to say what you do? It's quite ridiculous, but yeah, that's the thing. I am often told by some people who feel like uncomfortable, don't be so loud. Hey, don't talk about this. We're in a public space. I'm like, oh, it's just like doesn't even occur to me. So there's definitely that. I am very lucky. My parents are super okay with what I do. So that is me, but I know a lot of people are not. So they have to hide it. And again, it's how crazy is it? You're trying to hide your work, So I do feel comfortable with this, but on a business level, like we are facing obstacles that are quite ridiculous considering what it is that we're trying to do. Like we live in times that are failing, but they're trying to protect us from sex traffic, pornography, pedophilia, and all of this. We're really doing a horrible job at this because basically what's the rules these days is that any content around sex is basically being censored or you lose organic reach, etc. So if your content is anything around sexuality, you cannot run paid advertising. So that's basically gone. We cannot really do this. Really difficult to rephrase everything. Hashtags, like a lot of hashtags on Instagram, they have been banned. And someone also told me that even the word pleasure these days can get you banned. So this is why you've probably seen people getting very creative. Instead of writing sex, there's like a dollar sign or like SXX, like just trying to like do whatever we can to fool algorithms. What is it we're talking about? And what happened to me last year, which was like really shocking. I was in the middle of launching something. So I had people like signing up for my newsletter to get something. And one day I'm trying to log into my account, the email service provider. So for those of you who are not like into online business, you need to use a special company where you collect all the emails and then send your newsletters. Like that's obligation of the law. So I'm using mine, and one day I'm trying to log in and it's not working. It's not working. And I get a message later that my account has been deactivated. Not that it was blocked, none of these things, it's deactivated, like death. And I was like, what the fuck? I lost it. I absolutely lost it. I messaged them, what is this without any information? You just deactivating it. I'm in the middle of launch. I was so furious. And I was like, why did this happen? And they replied, their answer was, because my content could arouse someone. Okay. Now, this is so interesting because I have no idea what you guys are into and what arouses you. That's kind of your business. Yeah. But I mean, if that was really the case, then we would not allow any celebrities to dress up sexy. We would not allow any shirtless men or any women in bikini. We would not allow Latin dancing. It's a ridiculous idea that, like they said, it's sexually explicit content that may arouse someone. That was the exact phrase. Okay, sexually explicit content that may arouse someone.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Yeah. So basically, my account got deactivated, and then I needed like really fast to find another email provider, and I signed up for something. And I messaged them immediately saying, what's your regulations about like content around sexuality? Because I just had this happen. I don't want to break in the rules. And they're like, yeah, we'll get back to you. And next day I see I'm blocked again. I was like, are you guys kidding me? And I messaged them. I was like checking what other people in the industry use. And I actually was in a communication with the tech team. And I had to give them examples of the emails that I will be sending.
Yeah.
I had to promise I'm not going to do certain things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to limit this, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, we all rely on social media platforms and we have limited access to them, unfortunately.
Yeah. And some of this has occurred in my business over the last decade that I've been in work. And, we're not the only ones. And I bring this to the forefront to say, like, at the very beginning, we started talking about that a lot of us were not taught how to be intimate with ourselves or with other people. And this is a really clear example of the ways in which those of us who want to share our wisdom or our experience from the place of service and generosity, like, have these kind of invisible hands that make it more difficult, right? So that all of us together in kind of the experience of humanity are doing this really weird dance around how do we be free in our bodies? How do we be free in our relationships? And how do we get the information? So that's part of why I do the work that I do. It's part of why I'm having this conversation with you, Magda. And for all of you viewers, that is why I'm doing this series right now. And also why I'm creating the space for people like Magda and everyone else in the series for you to be in touch with them, because it's actually really critical that all of us have access, we have resources, we're connected to other people in order to be able to answer the questions that we have, from a really, I think, and I'm hoping for, a really loving and generous place. Magda, thank you so very much for this conversation. I could go many more hours with you if given the chance. So hopefully I can call on you again.
Thank you so much for having me and everyone who's here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Come back tomorrow for another beautiful expert conversation around sex, intimacy, pleasure, connection, and really creating the life that you deserve, that you desire, because you're absolutely worth it.